Okay, welcome back to the deep dive.
Mhm.
You've dropped quite a stack of sources on our desk here. Articles, reports from some key players like New Wave Magazine, the Luna Collective, GRAMMY.com, Spotify, Complex Pigeons and Planes,
Mhm.
and the thread running through all of them. They're all placing their bets, right? These are the lists predicting the artists, set to make a really big splash,
Mhm.
maybe even define the sound of 2025.
It's that time of year, isn't it? The annual ritual. Everyone trying to get ahead of the curve, trying to pinpoint those voices that feel genuinely next.
Exactly.
And when you actually pull all these different perspectives together, you really do start seeing some patterns emerge.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, basically, is to navigate all these predictions, cut through just the sheer volume of names.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. Pull out the essential insights, the key trends, and spotlight the artists that multiple sources seem to be pointing towards. Think of this as like your shortcut to understanding the potential soundscape of the year ahead.
Yeah, kind of cut through the noise.
Exactly. No information overload, just the curated view. And I'm ready to unpack it all with our guide here.
Happy to dive in.
Ah.
And honestly, looking at these lists side by side is way more illuminating than just reading one, in isolation.
Sure.
It shows you where the consensus is building, definitely, but also where different tastemakers are seeing maybe some unique potential that others aren't.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The first thing that really hits you looking at this volume of lists is just how much incredible music is bubbling up everywhere right now. It feels like a crowded space, but in a good way, a vibrant way.
Totally.
But when you start synthesizing these sources, those overarching themes you mentioned really start to jump out. What are the big ones you're seeing shaping the landscape?
Well, I think the most undeniable trend weaving through almost every artist mentioned is genre blending.
Okay.
And it's less about artists deciding, oh, I'll feature someone from another genre. It's more that the core sound of the artist itself is a fusion, like baked in from the start. You see R&B artists pulling in electronic textures, hip-hop artists bringing in, jazz improvisation or maybe some indie melancholy.
Mm-hmm.
Latin artists are fearlessly mixing traditional sounds like mariachi or rai with modern trap or electronic beats. It's genuinely borderless sound design now.
So it's not just like guest spots, it's fundamental to who they are musically.
Yeah.
You find artists who can just pivot from a really heartfelt acoustic moment to something that hits like, I don't know, dance punk, sometimes on the same album.
Absolutely. And kind of going hand in hand with that is globalization. These lists aren't just US or UK focused anymore. Not at all.
Yeah, you can see that straight away.
They span the globe. Argentina, Spain, Mexico, Palestine, Colombia, the Philippines, Thailand, Korea. It's everywhere. The digital world has just flattened those borders, hasn't it?
For sure.
It allows artists from basically anywhere to find a global audience almost instantly.
Which I guess brings us neatly to social media as a launchpad. TikTok, again, mentioned constantly, that initial viral spark.
It's still huge. But what the sources really stress is that the artists who stick around, the ones with staying power, are those who successfully transition that moment.
Right. It can't just be the one hit.
Exactly. You got to turn it into a sustainable career. That means releasing solid projects, building a compelling live show, creating a real connection that goes beyond just a short clip.
And often that connection seems built on authenticity and identity. Is that fair? A lot of these artists seem to be using their music to dig into really personal stories, cultural heritage, vulnerability.
Definitely. They're unique lived experiences. It feels like listeners are really gravitating towards artists who feel, well, real, authentic.
And finally, despite all the digital focus, live performance seems absolutely critical.
Oh, massively. Tours, festival slots. Coachella gets name-dropped repeatedly as a sort of proving ground.
Yeah, I saw that.
And unique performance series like NPR's Tiny Desk, they're mentioned as these crucial steps for artists to build momentum and deepen that fan connection. It's where the online buzz meets the real-world impact.
That translation piece?
Yes, that ability to translate the online hype into something compelling in the real world, that seems to be a key differentiator according to these sources.
And woven through all these trends is just this incredible diversity of sound, R&B, hip-hop, pop, electronic, Latin, indie, country, dance. I mean, this stack pretty much covers the spectrum.
It really paints a picture of a musical future that's incredibly eclectic, globally interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah, exciting.
Okay, so seeing those big picture trends is helpful. Let's zoom in now on some of the specific artists these sources are spotlighting. We can try and group them, maybe roughly by sound. But keeping in mind what you said, that genre blending is kind of the name of the game here.
Do it. Sounds good.
Okay, first up, let's look at rising voices in R&B and soul. Bryant Barnes is someone New Wave Magazine and others are really highlighting. He feels like a prime example of that social media launchpad trend you mentioned.
He really is. Went from doing those viral covers to getting signed and releasing his major label debut EP, Vanity.
What makes him stand out, according to the sources?
It seems to be his voice and his lyrics. They describe these really haunting vocals over poignant, often piano-led backdrops. Tracks like I'd Rather Pretend apparently really resonated.
Okay.
And the key thing is, he's successfully translated that online moment into, more traditional artist milestones. Performances on platforms like Colors, getting a support slot touring with 070 Shake.
Right, building the foundation.
Exactly. Releasing more official music, like his single, Why Can't You? That's the sustainable part of that social media story they're talking about.
Got it. Okay, another artist with a strong social media connection mentioned is Sailor. She's American Vietnamese, and her TikTok hit Pookie's Requiem really got her noticed. They describe her voice quite vividly, smooth as melted butter.
Yeah, quite a description. And she connects back to that authenticity trend by incorporating elements of her Vietnamese culture into her look and her presentation. Things like blackened teeth, fan dancing are mentioned. And New Wave noted how her sound is evolving too, becoming maybe softer, more floating on recent tracks like W1LLUL13, and pairing that with this really distinct Harajuku coquette aesthetic.
Right. Okay, from East London we have KWN, known for a really eclectic R&B sound that's apparently hard to pin down.
Yeah, defies easy categorization, they say. She grew up surrounded by really diverse musical influences, played instruments before she even started making beats. You can kind of hear that foundation in her sound. The sources point to her collaborations with artists like Kalani and Jordan Ntatunji as being pretty key moments for her in 2024.
Okay. Fauna Hughes, out of California, another singer-songwriter in this space.
Yeah.
Her journey is described as more slow and steady.
Yeah, sort of orbiting that space between neo-soul, R&B, and pop. The sources really praise her sweet, infectious vocal tone over these quite perky, upbeat productions. Her album Mouth got highlighted for exploring themes of human connection.
And using different platforms too, right? Like YouTube series.
Yeah, she appeared on that YouTube series Apartment Life, which helped expand her audience.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Sasha Keeble is another London artist getting buzz. Called one of the city's most underrated talents, actually. Which is interesting because she's been around over 10 years. Collaborations way back with Disclosure, Georgia Smith.
Yeah, she's not brand new, but it feels like she really hit her stride in 2024.
Yeah.
Anthems like Hold Up are mentioned. Spotify also listed her with the track Take Your Time featuring 6LACK.
Okay, that's a big feature.
Definitely. She's known for being really raw and organic, and those international connections are clearly boosting her profile now.
Nia Smith, UK vocalist, drawing some big comparisons. Amy Winehouse, Adele. Her style blends retro soul with a touch of reggae.
Yeah, that's the description. Heart-rending moments, but with a warm ease. She also gained reach via TikTok, and she's open for artists like Thames. And interestingly, Jamaican artist Pop Can featured on her lead single, Personal.
Ah, okay. Highlighting that cross-genre international collaboration potential again.
Exactly, that global reach.
Yeah. And Spotify also threw her name into the R&B hat, Isaiah Falls, with the track Butterflies. Less detail on him in our sources here, but clearly on Spotify's radar.
Right, want to keep an ear out for, maybe?
Okay, shifting gears now. Let's look at dynamic sounds in hip-hop and UK drill. Femi Guerrero saw significant growth in the UK underground scene, apparently.
Yeah, tracks like Vogue and Mandy hitting over 1 million streams, plus his mixtape New World Order. That points to some real solid traction building there.
Bub Tricks, the Spanish artist, she's a fascinating case, isn't she? Rose up super quickly via TikTok with Mission Suicida. Noted for these really fast, they call them whiplash flows.
Yeah, she definitely caused a stir. Initially, some sources mentioned people wondering if it was like a parody of certain rap styles.
Right.
But then her EPs, Trickstar and later Sad Tricks, they showed she has genuine songwriting chops and can tap into different sounds, even dipping into emo rap territory.
And that Charlie Akalicious feature must have been huge.
Oh yeah, featuring on the Brat remix album. That was a significant cosign and exposure moment for her in 2024 for sure.
Puzzer from South London. Seen as a leader in the UK Jersey drill scene. Made history, apparently. A first rapper with his first 2 singles charting at the same time.
Yeah, Kitchen Stove and Malicious Intentions. He's blending those really high-energy Jersey club rhythms, that specific bouncy beat with the kind of atmosphere you get from traditional UK drill.
Interesting mix.
Started out with Instagram freestyles, got co-signs from established figures like DJ Semtex and Dave that really helped build that early momentum. Now he's got a new record deal.
Dialis is described as more of a mysterious figure, underground hip-hop scene.
Yeah, seems to value privacy. The album cover for his debut, Dear Dialy, apparently reflects that. The aim for the album was supposedly to feel like club hopping through London, mixing dance, hip-hop, even jungle elements.
It still had that viral moment.
Exactly. His TikTok hit 930 really took off, amassed over 17 million streams, shows the power of that platform, even for artists who are maybe a bit more elusive.
Now, Complex Pigeons and Planes put a big spotlight on 13 Degrees, calling him the face of the new Chicago underground rap scene. What exactly does that mean, New Chicago?
Well, they describe him as embodying this movement of creatives trying to shine a different light on the city, beyond the dominant, often drill-focused narratives.
Okay.
His sound is described as this blend of like unabashed swagger, these syrupy melodies, and a bit of nostalgia through samples, but delivered with very new-gen rap vocals.
So bridging sounds.
Kind of positioned in a middle ground, yeah. Appealing to both younger listeners and maybe older heads who appreciate the sampling. And getting a sold-out hometown show is noted as being particularly significant there, given how tough it can apparently be for non-drill artists to get that local support.
Interesting. Also claiming a new regional sound is Lalo from Detroit, calling it New Detroit.
Right. And his sound is described as kind of transcending strict regionalism, sitting somewhere between artists like L.O.K.I. and Earl Sweatshirt maybe, but also nodding to his fast-talking Detroit peers.
So how does he define New Detroit?
He sees it as defining a sound and a movement, based on his specific upbringing and influences. He notes Detroit's long history of impacting both rap and R&B. He built his audience primarily on TikTok and SoundCloud, kept up a consistent release schedule showing different sides of his sound.
Okay, staying consistent.
Yeah.
Another UK artist Complex highlighted is Fake Mink, 20-year-old rapper and producer, experimental rap underground.
Yeah, formerly known as 9090 Gate. And he's incredibly prolific, reportedly released over 50 songs in 2024 alone.
Wow.
Mostly made in his bedroom, apparently avoids the flashy lifestyle stuff. His sound is described as really distinctive, dreamy, nostalgic, otherworldly, like a time warp of Y2K electronic music fused with early internet UK rap energy.
Hard to box in then.
Very. Blending jerk rap, experimental electronic, hyperpop, lo-fi indie, but influences like Dean Blunt and Imogen Heap are mentioned. Crucially, he doesn't use a faux American accent or chase standard trap drums. It's described as a hazy, dreamlike lane that feels distinctly London. He really stresses dedication, putting your entire self into the creativity.
Bronchek, 18-year-old from Jacksonville, noted for his potential to blur lines between different fan bases.
Yeah, his breakout single, Hot, 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 apparently has this kind of unruly spontaneity, reminiscent maybe of early Chief Keef or Young Thug,
Okay.
but hints of a more technical precision in his flow, almost like Lil Wayne. He himself notes a focus on technical skill, believing maybe some artists don't try as hard on that front anymore.
Right, and Spotify also listed a few more hip-hop artists with essential tracks. Baby Chief Doit with The Viper, Von off 1700, Ops on Deck, and Nems with Escape. And Samara Sin also popped up on some hip-hop lists with Magnolia Rain, but we saw her mentioned elsewhere too, which just reinforces that whole genre fluidity thing we talked about at the start.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting harder and harder and maybe less relevant to put artists neatly in just one box.
Definitely. Okay, let's move on to exploring the Latin music landscape, which feels incredibly diverse and dynamic right now. JurinM.com highlighted Jude Line, noting a tour early in the year.
Yeah, that live performance piece again, right?
Yeah.
Building momentum on the road.
Saint Levant is someone who really stands out across multiple sources. This Palestinian-Algerian artist, known for his trilingual songs English, French, Arabic. His success feels deeply tied to representing Palestinian culture and being incredibly authentic.
Yeah, his new EP, Love Letters, is described as explicitly an exploration of Arab identity and emotions. He intentionally incorporated Arab melodies and instruments, working with Arab collaborators. It's highlighted as a very deliberately Arab-led effort.
The sources detail his background, too. Born in Jerusalem, raised in Gaza and Jordan, now based in California, and he speaks out openly about the situation in Gaza.
Right, and his viral hit, Very Few Friends, back in 2022 was key, showing he could connect globally, even beyond just Arabic and French speakers.
His album Desmira, Named after a Gaza hotel his father built that was later destroyed. That was a deliberate homage to Palestine, wasn't it? While also tapping into his Algerian roots.
Exactly. Using shabby rhythms, Ryandi's traditional North African styles, bringing them into his sound. And he's using his platform beyond just music, too. Launching the 2048 Foundation to support Palestinian entrepreneurs.
It's interesting. The sources mention he does face some criticism from, certain listeners in the Arab world, maybe regarding sensuality in his music or his approach. But he apparently feels more love, especially live, and says he welcomes polarization, citing artists like Bad Bunny, who also challenge expectations sometimes.
And he's quoted saying his ultimate goal isn't necessarily being a musician forever, but contributing somehow to Palestine's liberation. Spotify lists his essential track as De Luna. He also appeared on an Arab American artists list with 5M in Paris, which also touches on that conflicted identity theme.
It's a really powerful example of music as a vehicle for personal, cultural, and even political expression.
Absolutely.
Okay, Majo Aguilar, carrying a significant family legacy in Música Mexicana. Her family are legends, right?
Yeah, father, uncle, grandparents are all revered figures. And she's carving out a space for women in a scene that's historically been very male-dominated.
Her Latin Grammy-nominated album, Mariachi Tequila, showed her embracing those traditions. Now she's mixing in corridos.
Yeah, these fiery corridos, those narrative ballads, sometimes with a darker edge, set to polka or waltz rhythms for her upcoming experimental LP, Mariachi Tumbado. That blend of tradition with more modern, maybe grittier sounds is really exciting.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, talking about blending genres and navigating fame. The Argentine trap duo, Casuril and Paco Amoroso. Their debut album, Baño Maria, is described as this wild mix electronica, hyper-pop, funk, reggaeton.
Yeah, but what's absolutely fascinating and what really boosted them was their NPR Tiny Desk concert. They completely transformed their tracks, took these electronic-heavy songs and rearranged them with live instruments, turning them into like bossa nova or Latin funk versions. It went massively viral.
And brought them a whole new level of fame, which they found surreal.
Exactly. They talked about how that experience was unexpected, saying it sent them to very strange places doing very odd things. And they actually channeled that feeling into their new EP, Popota.
Popota, that's Argentine slang for someone on steroids.
Yeah. And the EP is openly about navigating this sudden post-viral fame. They're even parodying the music industry itself, taking shots at AI music, making fun of award shows, these characters they call Latin chatties.
They even have a track called Imposter, right, tackling imposter syndrome.
Yeah, but doing it with humor, seeing it as like adding tax or inflating feelings on steroids. They really emphasize that their friendship and sense of humor are key to staying grounded through it all. And they also pointed out, hey, we weren't overnight successes. We were grinding for years before this happened.
And they prefer playing live now.
They feel more comfortable playing live than in the purely electronic formats many artists in their space start with. And their upcoming tour includes their Coachella debut in 2025. They see that as a huge moment, joked about bringing party favors and paraphernalia. It's just a really dynamic, kind of self-aware approach to their career and identity right now.
Very cool. El Malia is highlighted as a leader in the emerging reggaeton Mexa movement.
Right. He's taking that classic Puerto Rican perreo rhythm, the heart of reggaeton, and injecting it with Mexican swagger, slang, attitude. Tracks like Beta Belaco are mentioned.
But he does romantic tracks, too.
Yeah. Dime is mentioned as showing a softer side.
Yeah.
He sold out concerts in Mexico and is making his U.S. debut at Coachella. Noted as the first reggaeton Mexa artist to play the festival, which is significant.
Ayla Taubert, Colombian singer-songwriter, seen as a fresh face in Latin pop. Her EP blended rock, folk, vulnerability, and that hit Como Pasó just exploded, didn't it?
Over 120 million streams, yeah. Huge breakthrough. And she won Best New Artist at the Latin Grammys. Massive validation. She's working on her debut album now, aiming for a really limitless view of pop, bringing in sounds like country and synth pop into her recent singles.
Eric Bryan, formerly of the huge boy band CNCO, he's now shaping his solo project after the group disbanded.
Yeah, signed with Warner Music Latina. His debut single, Feliz Año Nuevo Triste, is described as a really heartbreaking synth pop track. His debut solo album is expected next year, aiming for a more mature, honest, adventurous take on pop, reflecting his growth post-CNCO.
And diving into Spotify's lists for Latin music, they also highlighted artists like Clovis Special, De La Rose, Netin Vega, and Jan Block with essential tracks.
More names for the Discovery playlist. Definitely lots happening in the Latin space.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to the incredibly diverse sounds in indie, alternative, and pop. Naomi Sharon, who is on 2024 lists, apparently continued to evolve her soulful, cinematic sound. Sia Gray, who we mentioned in R&B, pops up here too.
Yeah, Spotify lists Shell of a Man as her essential track, specifically in indie folk. It just shows again how much these genre lines are blurring for artists and listeners.
Mars Fade is an indie electronic artist from Michigan.
Their EP, I Move the Stars for No One, is described as this collage of songs about failed romances, using complex dynamics, live instruments like drums and guitars alongside the synths and strings. The sources say their music really invites listeners to feel the emotions they're exploring.
Rachel Chiniry is definitely getting called an indie darling by multiple sources. Her singles, So My Darling and All I Ever Asked, had that crucial TikTok moment a couple of years back.
Right, but her debut album, What a Devastating Turn of Events, shows she's way more than just a viral hit. It's described as an eclectic powerhouse, heart-wrenching ballads, 90s guitars, danceable pop.
And candid songwriting.
Very. About heartbreak, mental health, grief, and as a black woman in the UK indie scene, she's apparently quite vocal about carving her own space and pushes back against being automatically pigeonholed into R&B or soul. Opening for Sabrina Carpenter in Europe is a big look for her, too.
Ben Stiller, New York post-punk band. Their debut album, Scream, from New York, NY, got called one of the best rock records of the year by one source.
Yeah, New York itself is almost like a character or theme in their music, driven by these fresh post-punk melodies and heavy distortion. They're noted for bringing a specific energy to that scene, and new music is reportedly already in the works.
Alice Phoebe Liu, known for an open heart and yearning in her music, blending folk and indie. Her music is described with really evocative terms like a warm embrace, tender.
Yeah, she's been releasing music consistently for over 7 years, which shows sometimes it's about that steady artistic output, not just sudden viral fame. She released a new single, Better, and has a European tour planned.
Dummy is an experimental band. Their album Free Energy is described as spunky, defiant, making sense of what the sources call the crumbling Anthropocene, basically reflecting modern anxieties.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Using distortion, occasional avant-garde jazz touches sudden flutes, as mentioned, creating a sound that, despite those heavy themes, somehow offers faith and hopefulness through its 90s-driven energy. Their live shows are highlighted as being key to their growing success.
Sienna Spiro, 19-year-old from South London, making a mark with a powerful voice, relatable lyrics, and building a really big social media following.
Over 700K on TikTok, yeah. Her latest single, Butterfly Effect, really connected. That raspy tone and unique sound got her recognition. Apparently even a shout-out from SEA, which is pretty significant buzz.
Wisp, a teenager from San Francisco, blending shoegaze, that layered, distorted guitar sound with pop sweetness.
Yeah, her viral track, Your Face, got nearly 50 million streams. Her sound's evolving, drawing listeners into this kind of mystic guitar web, but she also knows when to pull back for those pop moments. What's really interesting is she's been added to open shows for these legendary rock bands, System of a Down, Korn, Deftones.
Wow, that's a mix.
Right. It suggests she might have this potential to bridge the gap between her online, maybe younger fan base, and those established old-school rock audiences. One to watch, for sure.
Lola Young, another South London artist, described as a powerhouse singer who can make an F-bomb sound like a sermon.
Huh. That definitely captures her raw, expressive delivery. Her sophomore album, This Wasn't Meant for You Anyway, is called Playfully Seething but Controlled, blending her distinctive rasp with alternative pop rock power.
Relatable themes, too.
Yeah, singing about stuff like regifted flowers, relationship ultimatums, very grounded. She also has extensive tour dates lined up across Europe and Australia, plus that Coachella debut. Spotify also lists her track, Messy.
The Dare, electronic artist described as dapper, collaborated with Charlie Flicks, right? DJ'd her Boiler Room set.
Yeah, and did some writing and production on her track, Guess. They're apparently continuing that collaboration at Coachella and Charlie's Lido Festival. His debut album, What's Wrong with New York, anointed him king of the indie sleaze revival.
Indie sleaze revival. That late Zellerzy's messy aesthetic again.
Exactly. His track, Girls, uses acid-tinged break beats, channeling predecessors like LCD Sound System, maybe The Strokes. There's a lot of anticipation for his live shows, especially Coachella, and how that might impact his trajectory.
Frost Children, an electronic duo, Siblings, also mentioned as starting 2025 strong, opening for The Dare, actually. They rose during quarantine, known for hyperpop and Jersey Club remixes.
Right. Their sound is futuristic, but definitely leans into that nostalgic, sometimes indie sleaze aesthetic, too. They featured on a Porter Robinson track, Mona Lisa, and have secured spots at major festivals like Primavera Sound. Seems like a clear path from niche internet popularity towards the mainstream festival circuit.
Lovecat, described as a female rock star from Liverpool. Debut singles explore the darker side of romance.
Yeah, tracks like Dinner at Brasserie Adele and Matador. She apparently has this gritty persona to match the lyrics, claims the songs are real stories. Her artist bio even mentions running away to a Parisian circus at one point, adding to the mystique. Spotify lists her track He's My Man as essential indie folk.
Mero gained attention initially with spacious acoustic love songs.
Right, tracks like Perfume, Chance With You.
But later work showed different sides, moving into dance punk, pop rock, more direct lyrics.
Yeah, Exploding is mentioned as dance punk, K3 Datamine is jaunty, and a final 2024 single, Lady Parts and Mannequins, use scrappy pop rock with very unveiled sexual lyrics. Shows an artist evolving quickly. He's opening for Half Alive on a North American tour. Spotify lists Chance With You as essential indie folk.
Okay. And just rattling through some others from the Spotify lists in this broad category. Pop artists like Addison Rae, Chloe Keisha, Debbie Dawson, JDE. Rock alternative like Alec XXS, Fleshwater, House of Protection, and Gigi Perez listed for indie folk. It's a real mix.
A really packed field. Just highlights the incredible breadth of creativity happening outside, or maybe blurring those traditional genre boundaries.
Definitely. Okay, moving into electronic and dance floor movers. Artemis, who was on last year's list, continued his rise in the electronic scene.
Yeah, performances at huge venues like Ushuaia Ibiza showed his upward trajectory. Known for those dynamic melodic techno sets, still building.
Megra is highlighted as a rapidly rising star in UK dance, tipped by a lot of tastemakers.
Sources point to his consistent output as being key, creating this sense of urgency and freedom on the dance floor. His sound is described as instantly infectious.
Hitting milestones, too.
Yeah, big ones in 2024. His first performance at the legendary Warehouse Project in Manchester, being named a Radio 1 Next Wave artist. Plus, his EP's got DJ support from massive names like Fred, again, Jamie XX. He's positioned as, like, the favorite DJ's new favorite DJ.
High praise. And Spotify also listed Barry Can't Swim, Ela Minus, and Polly S.A. with essential dance tracks.
Cover some really exciting ground in the electronic and dance space there.
Now let's look at artists charting new territory, maybe in areas like country, jazz, experimental. Ty Myers is a teenage country sensation from Texas.
Yeah, grew up on a cattle ranch. His music apparently has this real authenticity informed by that background, built towards his EP Ends of the Earth, and his debut album The Select is due out very soon.
Tour is selling out.
Selling out quickly, yeah. Seems pretty unlikely he'll be sticking around the family ranch for long. Spotify lists his track Ends of the Earth.
Cassius Culpepper. His journey includes growing up in the church, then cultivating his artistic voice while deployed in the Navy.
Quite a backstory. He's apparently reviving that melodic crooning style of 80s and 90s country, but buoyed by a blues influence. He's joining tours with artists like Ian Munsick and Leon Bridges, which are great opportunities for exposure in that scene.
Lonnie Gardner's story is fascinating, from YouTube bedroom videos to major raves and performances.
Yeah. Her viral 2020 video, the one doing the Fleetwood Mac cover, famously with a cranberry juice and skateboard, that actually led to a dance music collab with David Guetta on an EDM version of Dreams.
Wow, I didn't know that connection.
Yeah, quite a leap. Now she's opening for country artist Corey Kent in 2025. Her debut album, A Songwriter's Diary, is said to reveal very personal thoughts and stories. It just shows how unconventional paths can lead to major opportunities across completely different genres these days.
And Spotify also highlighted a few more country names: Cameron Whitcomb, Hudson Westbrook, and Zach Top with essential tracks.
Maya Delilah is mentioned by Spotify with the essential jazz track, Pretty Face.
Luke Titus, talented drummer and producer, worked with No Name, Steve Lacy. Big names, but now focusing on his solo career.
Exactly. His new album, From What Was Will Grow a Flower, is noted for showcasing his, virtuosic talent, but also real intentionality and restraint, not just shredding all the time.
What's his sound like?
Blends jazz, hip-hop, pulling from both Chicago and New York influences. He believes appreciation for highly technical instrumentalists is making a comeback. And he talks about using technical skill based on context, maybe simplicity for songwriting, but bringing complexity for live performance. Thoughtful approach.
And rounding out the Spotify mentions, Bridge Music and Henrik with essential Christian tracks, and King Madi and Ruger with essential Afrobeats tracks. Again, just showing the sheer global and stylistic range covered by these lists.
Absolutely, it's fast.
Okay, finally, the sources pointed to one more notable trend: the resurgence of girl groups. One source detailed several examples from all over the world, but the main focus seemed to be on FLO.
Yeah, the UK R&B trio. They had that massive viral moment back in 2022 with their single Cardboard Box. Got huge praise from artists like SCA.
Their themes are often about independence. Moving on.
Yeah, and their debut album, Access All Areas, is noted for its confidence, self-knowledge, this really unapologetic attitude. Influences like Amy Winehouse, Etta James are mentioned. Their harmonies are described as both soothing and commanding.
And they've been busy. Festivals, collabs.
Definitely. Booked for major festivals in 2024 like Coachella and Gov Ball, had collaborations with legends like Missy Elliott and also Glorilla. They opened for Kalani, and that led into their own apparently can't miss headlining tour starting soon. The comparisons to past R&B powerhouses like Destiny's Child keep popping up.
And as you said, the source highlights the global scale of this trend. It's not just FLO.
Not at all. Examples mentioned include VCH from the Youth Korea with diverse members, Bina representing Filipino P-pop, several groups from Korea like Kiss of Life and Artems with former Luna members, Nidziu from Japan, Korea, Black Swan based in Korea but with a diverse lineup, say now showing the process in the UK, 4EV from Thailand, Eunice with Filipino idols emerging from Korea, and SCNS who are LA-based. It's genuinely happening everywhere.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how a kind of classic format is getting reinvented with such diverse global influences and sounds right now.
It really is. And each group seems to be bringing something unique to the table within that format.
So bringing all of this together then, this massive list of artists, these interconnected trends, what does this whole collection of sources really tell us about the potential sound of 2025 and maybe beyond?
Well, it definitely reinforces that music is more fluid and more globally connected than ever before. Genre boundaries, increasingly meaningless, really. Artists are just drawing inspiration from everywhere. Social media is still crucial, no doubt, but it's clearly just the first step. The artists breaking through are the ones building sustainable careers through compelling music and that crucial live performance element.
And authenticity matters.
Hugely. Listeners seem genuinely hungry for authenticity, for artists who share their unique stories and identities.
It also just highlights the sheer diversity, doesn't it, of artists gaining traction. From bedroom producers blending experimental sounds to country singers rooted in tradition, from global pop groups to these very specific regional hip-hop leaders. These lists, yeah, they're just predictions, but they offer a fantastic curated starting point to discover who might be shaping the charts and the culture next.
They're a snapshot of a moment, aren't they? Showing where industry watchers are seeing potential, where the energy is bubbling up in the global music scene right now.
And with that, I think we've navigated this hefty stack of artists to watch lists and pulled out the key insights across all the different sources. Mission accomplished for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us to unpack it all.
Always a pleasure digging through these predictions. It's exciting stuff.
It really is. Okay, final thought for you to take away. Considering how many of these artists are so fearlessly pushing boundaries, blending influences from literally every corner of the world, and leveraging both digital and live spaces in smart ways, what entirely new sounds, maybe even entirely new subcultures, might we see emerge from their combined creative energy in the next few years? How might this incredible diversity fundamentally reshape what the mainstream even sounds like down the line? Something to keep thinking about as you listen. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.